picture this. You just got home from what felt like a genuinely incredible first date.
Oh, the best feeling.
Right. Like the conversation actually flowed. There were zero awkward silences. You laughed at the same objectively terrible jokes.
Yeah.
And the eye contact was just completely on point. You walk through your front door, you kick off your shoes, sit on the couch, and you pull out your phone.
Here we go.
And suddenly, total paralysis sets in.
Yeah.
You are staring at that blank text message field. The cursor is just blinking at you.
Practically mocking you.
Exactly. And you realize you're completely stuck between two terrifying extremes. Like, on one hand, you could act way too cool, perfectly detached, like you barely remember their last name.
Right.
Or, and this is where it gets dangerous, your anxious thumbs take over, and you accidentally fire off a follow-up text that reads less like a casual check-in and more like, I don't know, a heavy emotional wedding speech.
Oh, we have all been hostage to that blinking cursor.
Yeah.
It really represents the exact moment where all of our deepest dating anxieties decide to just set up camp and take the wheel.
Yeah.
But the psychology we're exploring today offers a completely different, honestly, incredibly grounding approach to this.
Which we desperately need. So what is the mission for our deep dive today?
Well, it's all about building real dating confidence without playing games. Because what the research shows is that healthy attraction simply does not survive in those extremes you mentioned.
Okay.
It cannot breathe when you act intensely obsessed, right? And it starves when you pretend you couldn't care less. It grows right there in the middle ground.
Man, that middle ground is the holy grail. But getting there feels, it feels almost impossible when your heart is racing and you're in that panicked state on the couch.
Totally.
And looking through the material for this deep dive, it seems like we freeze up in these moments because we fundamentally misunderstand what we're actually doing when we reach out to someone we like. Yeah. Like, we completely confuse expressing our interest with applying pressure.
That distinction is everything.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, breaking down the psychological difference between interest and pressure is the key to this entire dynamic.
So break that down for us. What does it actually look like?
Well, showing interest is incredibly attractive because when done right, it feels spacious to the other person. You know, you're communicating, I really enjoy talking to you, or you are free to respond to this honestly.
It's just a genuine offering.
Exactly, an offering.
Yeah.
But it crosses the line into intense pressure when the underlying sort of unspoken message shifts.
Right.
Suddenly the vibe becomes, you need to reassure me right now. Or, I need you to text back immediately so I know I'm okay.
Okay, let's unpack this because I want to make sure we're getting the nuances right here. The material distinguishes between clarity and intensity, but honestly, putting yourself out there is terrifying. Like, if I like someone, I do want them to like me back.
Of course you do.
It feels completely unnatural to just drop a message into the void and feel totally zen about it. Aren't we always going to have a little intensity when we really like someone?
Oh, it is entirely human to feel anxious about rejection. Your nervous system is activated, and that's normal.
Okay, good.
The issue isn't the anxiety itself, right? The issue is making the other person responsible for soothing that anxiety. Think of clarity as handing someone an invitation to a great party.
I love a good party.
Right. You're looking at them and saying, hey, I'm hosting this thing. It's going to be really fun, and I would love it if you came.
See, I would go to that party. It sounds lovely and like completely low stakes. So what does intensity look like in that scenario?
Intensity is handing them that exact same invitation, but then locking the door behind them. Staring unblinkingly into their eyes and demanding the RSVP right this second so you don't have to feel insecure about your party hosting skills.
Oh, wow. Yeah, when you frame it like that, it's actually terrifying. I would immediately run from that locked room.
Right. And that feeling of wanting to run is exactly what the other person feels when we apply pressure.
That makes so much sense.
Which is why there's a really brilliant self-check to use before you hit send on any message. You just have to pause, take a breath, and ask yourself one question.
What is it?
Ask, am I simply sharing my interest with this person, or am I asking them to manage my anxiety?
Am I asking them to manage my anxiety? Wow, that completely shifts the perspective.
It really does.
Because if I'm just looking for immediate reassurance because my own ego is feeling fragile, that's pressure. That is the locked door.
Exactly. You're making them do the emotional labor.
So naturally, if we know pressure is a buzzkill, the instinct for a lot of people is to wildly overcorrect, right? We think, fine, I just won't show any interest at all. I'll play it cool. I won't text back for a day.
The classic pivot.
But wait, devil's advocate here. Doesn't playing a little hard to get actually work? I mean, we hear it all the time. Scarcity creates value, right? People want what they can't have.
It's an incredibly common misconception. It's deeply ingrained by pop culture, and it's what we call the too cool trap.
The too cool trap.
Yeah. We are so terrified of being the person demanding the RSVP that we pretend we aren't throwing a party at all.
Oh, that's sad.
It is. We wait 3 days to reply even when our phone is literally in our hand. We purposely avoid giving compliments. Or we keep our answers super vague just to dodge any ounce of vulnerability.
Right. Just putting up a shield.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, there is a fatal psychological flaw in the scarcity argument. Early on in dating, if you act like you do not care, the other person will simply believe you.
Because they aren't mind readers.
Exactly.
Like, if I get a text from someone that says, maybe we can hang sometime, whatever, my brain doesn't decode that as, wow, this person is so mysterious and high value, I must chase them to the ends of the earth.
Not at all.
My brain says, okay, they aren't that into me. I'm going to focus my energy on someone who actually wants to see me.
Yes. You think you're projecting confidence, but you're actually projecting disinterest. And it's ultimately a self-sabotaging behavior disguised as self-protection.
Wow.
True confidence isn't hiding your feelings behind a brick wall of apathy. True confidence is showing your interest openly without tethering your entire sense of self-worth to how they respond.
That is so key.
It's the ability to say, I like you, while fundamentally knowing that if it doesn't work out, you will still be perfectly fine.
That completely reframes what confidence looks like in a relational context. It's about emotional resilience, not emotional unavailability.
Very well said.
So if the intense wedding speech is out and the detached too cool apathy is out, how do we actually just communicate warmth?
This is where we get practical.
Yeah, the frameworks we're diving into today provide a really practical approach to finding this middle ground. And it focuses on 3 core elements, right? Giving a clear signal, leaving space, and being specific.
Let's look at how those 3 elements work together in practice. The first piece, the signal, is just a simple, unpretentious indicator of your interest.
Okay.
It's stating a fact. It's saying, I really enjoy talking to you, or I had a great time with you.
But we have to keep it grounded, right? Because a signal can quickly turn into a spotlight.
Right.
Like saying, I have never felt a connection like this before in my entire life after a 45-minute matcha date. That isn't a signal, it's an emotional ambush.
Precisely. An emotional ambush is a great way to put it. The grand dramatic declarations are exactly what you want to avoid. You keep the signal clear, factual, and proportional to how long you've actually known them.
Proportional. Got it.
But a signal alone isn't enough. That is where the second element comes in, which is space. Once you signal your interest, you have to actively leave room for them to respond freely.
I will admit this is the hardest part for me.
Oh, for a lot of people.
When I really like someone, giving them space feels like letting go of the steering wheel. It feels dangerous. So what does giving space actually look like when you're communicating?
It looks like actively removing the timeline and the pressure from the interaction. You use phrasing like no pressure at all, or if you're up for it,
Okay.
or totally fine if your week is packed. You're implicitly telling them that their autonomy is respected. What ruins space is cornering someone.
Oof, yeah.
Asking, where is this going after 2 dates? Or throwing out guilt trips like, well, if you actually cared, you would make time to see me.
Guilt trips are the absolute worst. They immediately induce a fight or flight response. You just make the other person feel like they owe you a debt rather than freely choosing to spend time with you.
Exactly. It completely kills the warmth.
Okay, so we signal our interest, we leave space for them to breathe. What about the final piece, specificity?
Specificity is what prevents your interest from feeling like a generic copy-paste job. Like, if you just look at someone and say, you're great, it doesn't really land. It bounces off.
It's a bit empty.
Right. But if you say, I really liked how you described your Sunday routine, or that story you told about your grandmother's cooking really stuck with me, that shows you are actually paying attention to them as an individual.
Here's where it gets really interesting. As I was reading about this idea of combining a clear signal, giving them space, and adding specificity, it completely reminded me of driving safely on the highway.
Driving safely? How so?
Think about it. The signal is literally using your turn signal on the car. It lets the other drivers know your intentions. You aren't swerving wildly into their lane without warning, you know.
Right.
You're clearly communicating, I would like to move over here. Then space is making sure you aren't tailgating them.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Yeah, you're leaving a safe following distance so that if they need to hit the brakes or if they need to take an exit, there isn't a catastrophic pileup. You're giving them room to maneuver safely.
I love that.
And specificity means you actually have a destination plugged into your GPS. You aren't just driving aimlessly, telling everyone the road is magical. You know exactly why you're on this journey and what specific landmarks you are appreciating along the way.
That is a remarkably perfect analogy. It captures the mechanics of healthy pacing beautifully. You signal your intent, you maintain a safe emotional distance so nobody crashes, and you remain purposeful in your direction.
Thank you. I try. So I want to take this out of the theoretical realm and see how this highway driving actually works in traffic.
Let's do it.
The material discusses this concept of an interest meter, basically checking if your communication is running too cold, too hot, or comfortably warm. I think we have all sent texts that broke the thermometer.
Definitely.
Let's look at some real everyday dating hurdles, like the morning after a first date.
Oh, classic pain point.
The temptation to send the too hot text is so unbelievably strong. You want to say, last night was amazing. I seriously feel like we could be something special. I can't stop thinking about you.
Which, going back to our earlier point, applies massive pressure. It's asking for immediate high-stakes validation before trust is even built.
Right.
But if you try to overcorrect and go too cold, you might just wait for them to text first or say something incredibly passive, which leaves them totally confused.
So dialing it back to warm, using our framework, you could just say, had a really good time last night. You are so easy to talk to. I'd love to do it again if you're up for it.
Notice how that completely changes the dynamic. You signaled intent, had a good time.
Yep.
You're specific, easy to talk to. And you gave them a clear out if you're up for it. It is calm and it is confident.
It's so clean. And I guess the same logic applies to messaging on dating apps. A lot of people fall into the too detached crap there, sending things like, maybe you should hang sometime, iddy.
Right, the classic idic as a shield against rejection.
Yeah.
It's so passive. It forces the other person to do all the heavy lifting to figure out if you actually want to meet.
Instead of hiding behind a maybe, a warm approach would be directly saying, I'm really enjoying this conversation and I think it might be easier in person. I want to grab coffee sometime this week. It's direct, but it doesn't exaggerate the stakes.
Exactly. Let's talk about compliments because that is an area where people frequently turn the dial way too hot without even realizing it.
Oh, for sure.
Looking at someone you barely know and saying, you are literally perfect, puts them on an impossible pedestal. It's not actually about them. It's about an idealized version of them you've created in your head.
It also gives them absolutely nowhere to go in the conversation. How do you even respond to, you're perfect? You just awkwardly say thanks.
Right.
But if you lean into specificity, it changes everything. If someone told me, I really like your way of seeing things, you make completely ordinary stories sound hilarious, I would melt. That shows they actually see me, the real me, not a fantasy.
That is the power of specificity. It builds real intimacy without the pressure. Now, what about the ultimate test of patience? When the other person takes a full day to text back.
Oh, the slow reply. The ultimate test of mental fortitude.
It really is.
The intense reaction is to immediately double text and say, hey, worried you lost interest. Or to get passive-aggressive.
Which, again, is demanding they manage your anxiety.
Right.
It is punishing them for having a life outside of you.
Yeah.
A warm, confident response when they finally do reply is simply, all good. I know weeks get busy. I'm still up for that drink if you are. You remain completely unbothered.
It's almost like a superpower when you see it applied like that. You don't punish them, but you don't grovel either. You just hold your ground.
Exactly.
And it's the exact same energy when asking for a second date. You don't need to say, I need to know if you see this going somewhere. You just say, I had fun, want to try that new ramen place this weekend.
It turns the interest into a simple, specific plan.
Yeah.
But we do have to acknowledge the reality of human nature here. Even with a perfect highway analogy, anxiety is a powerful force. Sometimes our thumbs just take over. And that is why it's crucial to understand the behavioral red flags that instantly cross the line into high-pressure intensity.
Yes, let's really dig into why we actually do these things, because it's rarely malicious. It's usually just panic, like testing the other person. This is a huge one.
Testing is incredibly common. This is when you deliberately pull away, stop texting, or act cold specifically to see if the other person will chase you.
I have seen so many friends do this. They think it's a savvy dating strategy to measure someone's true interest, but why is it so damaging to the connection?
because it is fundamentally a manipulation tactic rooted entirely in a desire for control. You feel vulnerable, your nervous system is dysregulated, so you manufacture a scenario where the other person has to prove their devotion to soothe your ego. The problem is how the receiving party processes it. They do not think, oh, they pulled away, they must be so mysterious and high value. They process it as exhaustion. It creates an environment of unpredictability, which instantly destroys trust early on.
That makes total sense. It is exhausting to be on the receiving end of a test you didn't know you were taking.
Exactly.
It's very similar to jealousy bait, actually casually mentioning other dates you've been on, purely to provoke a reaction. You aren't connecting, you're just poking them with a stick to see if they flinch. What about monitoring response times? Like, hey, you took 3 hours to reply.
Monitoring response times turns a blossoming romantic connection into an audit.
And an audit, yeah.
It immediately shifts the dynamic from two equals getting to know each other to a boss tracking an employee's timesheet.
Yeah.
It completely suffocates the space we talked about earlier. No one wants to feel like they're constantly under surveillance.
And then there's the trap of fast-forwarding intimacy, acting like you are already in a committed, serious relationship after only 1 or 2 conversations, which, again, usually comes from a good place, like you're excited, but you are completely ignoring the reality of the timeline.
You're projecting a fantasy onto a stranger. And we also see this distancing happen when people rely on gender stereotypes, saying things like, well, men always do this, or women always do that.
Oh, I hate that. Why does that kill the vibe so fast?
Because it reduces the complex, unique human being sitting across from you into a broad, generic category. It is lazy, just like using scripted pickup artist tactics or negging.
Right.
It strips the interaction of any genuine authenticity. What's fascinating here is the psychological undercurrent connecting all these behaviors, the testing, the auditing, the stereotypes.
So what does this all mean when you strip it down to the studs? Why are these specific behaviors the universal romance killers?
It means that almost all of these behaviors are essentially avoidance mechanisms. They stem from one of two places. They are either attempts to manipulate the other person's feelings so you feel safer, or they're attempts to instantly relieve your own anxiety.
I see.
When you are doing these things, you aren't actually present. You aren't sitting with the vulnerability of simply getting to know someone.
Wow. You are either manipulating them or soothing yourself. You aren't even interacting with the real person sitting across the table from you at that point. You are just shadowboxing with your own fear of rejection. That is a massive realization.
It changes everything when you notice it.
Yeah, like if I'm auditing their text response time, I'm not enjoying their company. I'm just managing my own panic.
Exactly. And it brings us right back to the core premise of all this research. Warm, clear interest combined with a healthy sense of self-respect will always be more attractive than playing games.
Okay, we have covered a ton of ground today. Let's distill this into a quick recap so we can all stop sending wedding speeches to our dates.
Let's do it. Point 1. Remember that interest isn't the problem. Pressure is the problem.
Yep.
Point 2. When you communicate, aim for that sweet spot, using a clear signal, leaving space, and adding specificity.
The highway.
Exactly, the highway. Point 3. Always choose clear communication over dramatic declarations. Point 4. Ditch the too cool act. Acting unavailable just makes them believe you genuinely don't care. And point 5. Warm interest plus self-respect always beats manipulation.
Perfectly summarized. Now, to you listening, we really want to hear your take on this. Drop a comment below and answer this honestly. What feels the absolute hardest for you when you genuinely like someone? We have 4 options. Is it, number 1, complimenting them without sounding weird?
A tough one.
Number 2, actually asking them out. Number 3, texting them after a date. Or number 4, not overthinking their replies when they take a little while. Just drop the number 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the comments. I am definitely a number 4. We want to see where you all get stuck.
And as you think about your answer, this raises an important question to leave you with, a final thought to mull over. If sending a simple text to someone you like feels like a life or death moment, are you actually reacting to the person you just met? Or are you reacting to your own internal fear of rejection?
Oof. That is the real question, isn't it? Definitely something to think about next time you find yourself staring down that blinking cursor on your phone. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Next time, we are exploring a topic that perfectly follows this one.
I'm excited for it.
Me too. We're diving into episode 04, First Date Questions that actually open people up, exploring how to ask questions that make people feel relaxed, fascinating, and truly seen without making the date feel like a high-pressure job interview. You will not want to miss it. See you then.